ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, Hare Krishna everyone. So welcome to this second session, and the second session basically is, does God exist? Okay, so this is the session that we are going to discuss today. But before we actually move to this second session, I want to do a quick recap of what we discussed last time. So the first session, it was, in that session, we discussed about what is our goal. So we tried to understand that irrespective of what we do, how we do, the whole and sole purpose is to gain happiness. So happiness was the goal that we derived. And then we discussed as to how this happiness becomes elusive, because so we discussed the difference between humans and animals, how both they try to seek happiness. So animals look into basic things like eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Those are the activities. But humans, they have a ability to go beyond that. Okay, humans have the ability to think, rationally think, argue, question. Those abilities humans have, which animals do not have. Actually, they work by instinct. So we discussed that part of it. Okay, and then we also discussed that for me to gain happiness, in spite of all my endeavors, I still don't get it, because there are problems. And then we discuss the definition of a problem. A problem is a particular situation which is faced by everyone, which no one wants, which there is no solution available, and where everyone wants to get rid of it. Then we discussed what are the different types of problems, okay, which fit in this definition: birth, old age, disease, death, and also the three problems: Adi Daivik, Adhyatmik, and Adi Bhautik. Problems by other living entities, problem by material nature, and problems by our own body. So these are the ones, which actually kind of keep us away from the happiness. But then, is happiness a myth then, or is happiness an illusion? Or is happiness just a reflection? Because we also discussed about a story in which the person was trying to find a necklace inside water, whereas the original necklace was on the top of a tree. So if there is a reflection, then we also discussed that then there has to be an original object whose reflection is created. So if the happiness in this material world is a reflection, then there has to be true happiness existing somewhere. And what that true happiness is, where it is, that is a point of discussion which will evolve over the sessions. But these are the things that we discussed last time. So today we are going to discuss about this interesting topic, and that is, does God exist? Okay, so faith and science. So before we even jump to this discussion, so there is a small narrative or a story which kind of can kickstart this session today. So it's a story about a barber. So we know that typically the barbers are those people who have a lot of information about a lot of things, and they like to talk so many topics about. So one person, he went to the barber shop to have a haircut and also probably trimming his beard. He went over there, and the barber, while he was doing the haircut, he was discussing so many topics with this person, and so many things he discussed. And finally, at one point, the topic came about God. And the barber told this man, I don't believe God exists. So the man said, why do you think so? So the barber said, if God actually existed, then there would not have been so many problems in this world. There would not have been hungry people. There would not have been starving children. There would not have been poverty. All these things that we see in this world, which we feel is a problem. He said, if God was really there, he would have been kind and all these things would not exist. But the fact that they exist, that means God is not there. So the man did not argue. He just heard the barber and he said, okay, fine. It's okay. It's your opinion. No problem. The man, after the haircut was done, he paid the bill to the barber and he just stepped out of the shop. And when he stepped out of the shop, outside the shop, he saw one person who was a beggar and who had matted locks of hair and a long beard. And when he saw this man, he turned to the barber and he said, I don't think so barbers exist. So barber said, what do you mean? You just had a haircut with me. He said, no, but I see so many people on this street who have such long hairs and such a long beard. I don't think so barbers exist. So the barber said, unless and until these fellows come to me, how will I trim the hair and beard? So the man said, same is the case with God. Unless and until you approach, or these people who have problems, unless and until they approach God, how do you think the problems will be solved? So it's a very interesting conversation because it kind of tinkles the intelligence about the existence or non-existence of God. Many a times people term understanding of God as faith, and they also coin science as a more refined approach, which kind of kills the existence of God. Because if someone believes in God, then many a times it is understood or misunderstood that that person is not scientific. So what we want to do today is we want to understand that firstly, does God exist? And how do we understand that he exists? And is the understanding of God's existence merely a faith or is it a science? So this is the topic of our discussion today. Okay. So how many of us, how many of us are inclined or think ourselves that, okay, we have a lot of faith rather than being scientific? We do things out of faith rather than being scientific. How many of us? None of us. Everyone is scientific over here, right? Everyone is scientific. No one does anything on faith. Everyone is scientific. Excellent. Amazing. Okay. Oh, we have Amit. Is that Amit Kumar, right?
That's Ashwini.
Oh, that's Ashwin.
Ashwini.
Ashwini.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ashwini.
Ashwini Kumar. Okay.
Yes.
So Ashwini, I'll let me just go to this next slide first. Yeah. So since you have raised the hand, now I'm going to ask this question, that give some examples in your life where you do it out of faith only. Now, since you have raised the hand, can you give an example?
Yeah, a lot of time you don't know if something can be done, but you have a faith that it will happen.
Give an example.
I don't know. Example.
Simple examples in life where you feel, you act out of faith only.
Yeah, means one example is that you have a faith that if you go to temple, you will feel tranquility or something like that. Means,
okay, nice. So if you go to the temple, then you will experience tranquility. Okay, very good. Anyone else? Any examples of faith?
When we cross the road while the signal is red, so we have faith that no one else will. I mean, we have the faith that the others will follow the rules.
That's blind faith. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, my God, everyone is so sad. सब लोग engineers है क्या ये group में? I mean, what? Everyone is an engineer, or do we have any doctors also in this group, or all are like engineers and other streams?
I don't think we have any engineer, any doctors. So maybe so other example that I remembered is when we take medicine from any doctor, we take it on faith that it will work.
Okay.
That is another faith.
Okay. So let me put some examples which hopefully you will agree that they are based on faith. We all fly by different airlines, right? And when we decide to fly by the airlines, how many of us, when we purchase the ticket and when we are about to board, we ask the airline person that, can you please introduce me to the pilot? I want to check his driving license. How many of us do that? We have faith in the airlines that whichever driver they have provided or the pilot they have provided, he will take me through, in spite of knowing the fact that there are so many accidents that happen in airlines, but we still put faith that probably mine is not the one, right?
Guruji, this is a very clear example. Means even like before this example, I was struggling like what can be the appropriate example. And with this example that you just shared, I can, the other thing comes to my mind is like when someone goes in an operation theater and then he has a faith in doctor कि ये जिस पर्पस के लिए मुझे अंदर लेके जा रहा है वही करेगा एंड ये मेरे को वापस जिंदा ही निकालेगा.
Yeah,
So,
very true. We trust the doctor when he goes in the operation theater. Even the relatives, they waiting outside की बल्ब के अंदर वाले रूम में पता नहीं क्या चल रहा है, लेकिन जो भी चल रहा है ठीक चल रहा है.
and I believe most of the time traders also when they trade in a faith कि मेरे को जो है वो profit ही होगा, नुकसान नहीं होगा.
वो blind faith है.
वो blind faith होगा.
You know, just because you brought this example of the doctors, I'll tell you, in Mumbai, we have Bhakti Vedanta Hospital. So this hospital is run by all the devotee doctors over there. Okay. So it's not that they treat only devotees there. They treat any person, any outsider also. But the hospital doctors and the staff is majorly devotees over there. So there was this one person who was about to go through a very critical surgery, life and death wala surgery tha uska, and he had a devotee friend. तो उसने उसके डिवोटी फ्रेंड को फोन करके बोला, अरे यार मेरा आज सर्जरी है, मेरे लिए प्रार्थना कर, देख मैं जीव ना जीव, नो मेरे लिए प्लीज प्रार्थना कर. तो वो जो डिवोटी फ्रेंड है ना, वो उसको मिलने के लिए आ गया उधर, लेके आया, वो हार लेके आया. तो ये डर गया वो स्ट्रेचर. बोले क्या मतलब, ऑपरेशन से पहले तू गार्लैंड लेके आया? बोले अरे नहीं नहीं, ये भगवान का गार्लैंड है. बोले लेकिन किसके लिए लाया है? बोले इफ ऑपरेशन सक्सेसफुल डॉक्टर के गले में डालूंगा, इफ नॉट सक्सेसफुल तेरे गले में डालूंगा. So yeah, I mean, we have to have faith. I'll give some other examples. We all did practicals in our school college days, right? You remember this titration practical? Any of us remember? वो titration का एक रहता था, उसमें हम लोग burette, pipette होता था, right?
Yes.
Now
Yes.
in that titration, if you recollect, or rather not just titration, so many practicals we have done in our life. We always used to do the practical and we used to come to a value. And that value would always be close to an ideal value. And depending on how close it comes to the ideal value, we used to get 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or 7 or 10 out of 10, right?
There were not, it will not be have some expected results during that.
जो भी है, but you know, we always, mostly we used to get variances, right?
Yeah.
Very few of us, unless we faked the experiment, we would get the actual one.
Yes.
Right? वो टीचर को भी पता चल जाता था कि इसने किया नहीं है ठीक से, right?
Yeah.
But then, don't you think we never challenged our teacher saying that, teacher, we are doing a science practical. I have done the practical right in front of your eyes, and this is the result. So why are you saying that my result is off and the ideal value is correct? Rather, my result should be the ideal value because I have actually performed the experiment in front of you. But we put faith on the teacher and that fellow, whoever brought that ideal value, thinking that, okay, whatever experiment I did is wrong and that ideal value is correct, right? Isn't that faith? Do you agree or not? All the
Yes, sir, we do agree, because then we believe that whatever the test values that they are referring to, or the
correct.
reference benchmarking value, that have already been performed in a ideal standard conditions, whereas our
Correct.
conditions may not be the
Yes.
standard.
I'll give you a very classic example. In today's world, blood pressure 80/120 is considered to be good blood pressure value. Good means normal, right? And any variance to 80/120 is considered that there is some problem, either on the lower side or on the higher side. But there are so many articles that are published which very clearly say that not necessarily for every person 80/120 is a normal value. 80/120 is the average value that is derived from a sample of audience. But it is very likely that for a particular person, depending on his whatever body structure and the ecosystem and the environment, his blood pressure could be little higher or lower, and that could be normal for him. But medical science has coined 80/120 as the normal thing, and today we have accepted that. And the moment our blood pressure varies away or from those values, we immediately seek the doctor and we take medicines. That is faith. That is faith. You can, I mean, you can do a Google on this thesis and you will come to get so many articles about this. Faith. Okay. Third one. When we were taught so many different formulas, statistics, mathematics, and all these things, in our early school days, I will not talk about high school days, but school days, okay, or not even college days, probably high school days, none of these formulas we ever implemented or we experimented. We just accepted the formulas as it is and we just learned, right? It is only after that, probably if we actually went into that field, we got to actually apply those formulas to see whether it really works or not. But till then, we operated only on faith. Whatever the teacher is telling me is correct and it is not wrong. And finally, this is like a day-to-day example. When we walk on the street, even in the dark night, when we put our foot forward, we trust the floor with the faith that the floor is a solid floor and not that there are some ditches or dumps or water or anything over there. So even to put a step forward, we have to have faith. Without that, you can't even put your step forward in dark rooms. So that is faith. So if you closely observe now any activity in your life or in our lives, there is not a single activity which we can perform without basic faith in our life. For every activity, some amount of faith is required. I mean, you can think of anything, but you will come to this conclusion that yes, in our life, I mean, even from the fact of sleeping till waking up, going to the washroom, we have faith in the morning that water is going to come in the tap. How many times, we enter into the toilet and we first check whether water is coming or not, and then only we actually sit for the toilet. We have faith that kal aaya tha pani, aaj bhi aayega karke, we sit with that faith. So that kind of thing that happens in life. So this basically is faith that we are talking about. Now, see, the reason I brought this point about faith is not that I want to emphasize on the fact that understanding or existence of God is only faith. Okay. But we also have to understand that we are not talking about believing God as a blind faith, but we want to discuss about the fact that to do any activity, there is some bare minimum faith that is required. Like, for example, if I want to take some kind of medical treatment, then when I approach a doctor, the doctor is going to prescribe me some kind of medicines. I might have no idea about what these medicines are, or I might have no idea about what the effect of these medicines is going to be. But I need to put that basic faith in the doctor, okay, and start taking the medication. But I don't want to do a blind faith in the doctor. So when I take the medication, I also want to monitor whether the medications are working in a positive manner or not. So it is a blend of faith and science. You know, with faith you proceed, and with the scientific approach you validate your faith, and then you increase your faith, and then you validate, and then you increase, and then you validate. That's the approach that we want to talk about. Okay, fine. I'll move to the next slide. So faith is important in our life. Okay, now we will talk about understanding the existence of God through a scientific or logical approach. Okay. Now there is a small quiz that we'll play. Who invented aeroplane? Does anyone know? Famous inventions or discoveries?
Wright brothers.
Wright brothers.
Wright brothers. Excellent. Okay. Who invented the telephone?
Some bell.
Graham Bell.
Bell.
Yeah,
Graham Bell.
good, good, good. Okay. Who invented the bulb?
Edison.
Edison. Fantastic. Who invented
Newton.
the theory of apple falling from the tree?
Newton.
Right. Is there any invention or any discovery or creation where there is no inventor and it has just happened on its own?
God.
Universe.
God.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we'll discuss about that, but I'm talking about the inventions which you see in your day-to-day life. Of course, I mean, you can talk again about the universe. Yes, we see that, but typically जो हम लोग इस्तेमाल करते हैं, which we come across in our day-to-day life, any invention which just happened by chance. You know, मैं अचानक सवेरे उठ गया and all of a sudden it just appeared in my house, or I was walking on the beach and all of a sudden some waves clashed against each other and this miraculous thing just appeared over there. Anything like this has ever happened by chance in your experience? And if it's not in your experience, if anyone else's experience which you know of, ऐसा कुछ हो गया, chance से आ गया है, but नहीं? So can we make this statement that for every creation there has to be a creator?
Yes.
Right? Whenever you see a creation, so say for example, if I am walking on the sea beach and while walking or strolling over there, all of a sudden I find a very nice, beautiful watch lying over there. So when I look at the watch, you know, other than the thought of putting that watch in my pocket, what would be the other thought that will come in my mind? When you see a watch lying there, which is not yours, what would be the thought that would come in your mind?
Like how come this watch has come here, or was there somebody visiting us, like who has left it, or who has missed
Correct.
his?
So someone's watch, right? Someone's watch. I, I don't think any one of us will think that, oh, look at this, on the beach, the watch got created or something. The moment you see a watch, our thought will come that someone's watch is there. So you see a creation, then the immediate thought that comes is who created this, right? Who created this? So there is also this story of Newton, right? So Newton had prepared this beautiful gyroscope. Gyroscope is that machine or a model which actually has the entire planetary systems revolving around the sun, right? So when Newton had placed that gyroscope in his room, and one of his friend who was an atheist person, he came to visit Newton. And when he came to visit Newton, so Newton actually was, he had gone outside for some work. So he just waited in that room. So he was just looking around and he happened to see this wonderful instrument, gyroscope. He had not seen this before. When he saw this, he was very, very interested, looking at it, playing with it, moving it and all those things. When Newton came, he said, amazing, what a beautiful model, who prepared this model? Newton said, no one. I mean, just like you, all of a sudden, one day when I came in my room, it just happened to be here. He said, come on, Newton, don't, yeah, I mean, jokes apart, tell me, I would also love to have such a model in my house. Can you tell me who prepared this? He said, why do you think that someone has to prepare this? Can it not come by chance? He said, how can it come by chance? So he said, you don't believe that a simple model like this can come by chance, but you propagate theories that the entire universe or creation has come by chance. How is that possible? The Big Bang theory, if you have heard about this, okay, is that theory which talks about some bang took place some millions of years back, and after the bang there were millions of particles that got scrambled, and it took millions of years for them to cool down, and after cooling down, all this entire creation and everything happened. Such an unscientific theory is propagated by science and accepted by the scientists and the scientific students, right? So again, please understand, we are not against science. Science is a wonderful aid for human society to progress. But when this science, it kind of starts cheating people, okay, or making them atheistic, that is where we have a problem with science. How many of you are from Maharashtra state over here? I mean, I just want to share one example, and only probably people who are born and brought up in Maharashtra, they might be able to relate to this one. So basically in our childhood days, when Diwali used to appear, during the Diwali time, we used to make forts from mud and clay, because in Maharashtra, we have so many forts all around. So we used to make forts from mud and clay. So I don't know if that also happens outside Maharashtra state. And this used to be pretty big forts, at least 3 or 4 feet tall forts, which there used to be rocks and mud and everything. But one of the best part of making the fort used to be the last day of Diwali, because on that day, we used to bring that Sutali bomb, we used to get that Sutali bomb or the Samsung bomb. We used to get those earlier. Even now they might be getting, but yeah. And what we used to do is we used to put that Sutali bomb inside that fort, and we used to blast that fort. So this used to be one of our favorite activities, and that used to happen on the end of the Diwali, last day, that we used to do. But believe me, for so many years and at so many places, we blasted those forts. At no time a new fort came out of that fort. No blast created any wonderful fort. It only created a kind of destruction of those forts. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make over here is, while we understand that there are creations, inventions, and we accept that in this world, for every creation, invention, there is a creator, then when we have this wonderful creation of this universe, then there has to be some very, very thoughtful and more powerful, intelligent creator who has done that. Okay. So this is one point that I would leave on this slide, and we move forward. Okay. The next one, laws in nature. So just like we talked about, for every creation, there has to be a creator. Similarly, in this world, we see that for every law, right? So there are so many laws, like for example, when we go on the streets, okay? So ideally, we are supposed to wait whenever there is a red light, and we move whenever there is a green light, right? So that is a law, right? So is this law by chance, or law is there because there is a lawmaker behind it? There is a lawmaker. So for every law, there has to be a lawmaker, right? Laws cannot exist without the lawmaker, because the lawmaker is the person who makes laws. So similarly, if we look at this wonderful creation and this material nature, can we think of some of the laws which are very amazing and working perfectly? This whole creation works in a very wonderful, harmonious way. So can you give some examples of harmony in this material world? You know, laws of material nature or laws of nature we can talk about. Any examples? Do you think this world is a harmonious place? A simple example is, you know, we take in oxygen, give out carbon dioxide, the plants take carbon dioxide inside and give out oxygen, right? So there is a cyclic thing. So we consume something and we give up something, and then the given up thing is taken by someone else, and then they consume that and they give up a particular thing which we consume. You know, it's a very perfect cycle, right? So like that, can you think of any other laws?
But the one can be uh, like the sun rises and then there is a night and again sun rises. So
Perfect. So we see that the sun rises daily and sets daily. Never it has ever happened, or it will happen, that there is no sunrise, right? Sun आज बोला बहुत हो गया, छुट्टी है मेरे को कोरोना हो गया, ये वो, nothing like that, right? So this is a perfect law. It's working in a perfect harmony over there. Okay. Anything else? You see this example over here on the screen. Does anyone know what this example is? In our school days, we had this anomalous behavior of water. Does anyone know or remember about it? Okay, so I'll explain what the anomalous behavior of water is. So normally water at 0 degrees Celsius, it freezes to ice. So this we all know, right? Fridge में रखते हो पानी, वो जम जाता है तो बर्फ बन जाता है. But while all other liquids at a lower temperature only freeze, water displays a very different behavior below 0 degrees Celsius. The moment water goes to -4 degrees Celsius, the ice again goes back to its original state of water. At -4 degrees Celsius, ice becomes again water. And this is a very amazing phenomena. And this is the only reason why the aquatics and the sea vegetation survives even in extreme cold regions like Antarctica and many other places, even beneath the layer of ice. The ice acts as a bad conductor of heat, which also gives the necessary warmth to all these living species which are staying over here. This is a phenomena in science which is called as anomalous behavior of water. Search on Google, you will get to know this. It is a very amazing phenomena, and till date, scientists have not been able to make any sense of this phenomena or any logic. And because they do not understand this phenomena, that is why they have attributed it as anomalous behavior. I mean, amazing behavior or crazy behavior, or we don't understand kind of behavior, right? They are not ready to accept the fact that it is a behavior which God has created. This is a unique creation of the God, but but they call it as the anomalous behavior of water. This is a very amazing thing. Okay. Second thing, we know that there are so many planets which rotate around the sun, and every planet has their own orbit, and we never hear about clashes of any planet with any other planet. मतलब हमारा तो किसी के साथ हुआ ही नहीं है, but we never even heard that, oh, till yesterday Jupiter and Saturn were going well, all of a sudden yesterday night they both clashed each other. No, their orbits are different. They are what you say is the layers in which they operate are also different, but they go in a perfect I shouldn't say circular manner, but they traverse the perfect orbital path actually, and that is how they maintain the law actually. So this is one more you can think of where a perfect law is being maintained. Another example, yeah.
A female give birth to kid, and male doesn't. So that's the law of nature.
Yes, yes. That also is a very, very amazing phenomena, because when the child is in the womb of the mother, that time the food for the child is automatically prepared by God. Okay, for the child. Nature has made such a perfect arrangement, it has made such a perfect arrangement. See, the other beautiful arrangement of nature, or even look at our body, right? Our eyes and our eyelashes. How many times our eyelashes close and open on the eyes? They act as a protective layer, right? So they are a covering which moves back and forth, back and forth. Now, I come from mechanical engineering background, and in our mechanical engineering, one of the biggest research that we used to do is about the lubricants, because lubrication is something which destroys machines and metals which rub each other. Our eyes and eyelashes, they throughout our life, they keep moving up and down, up and down. But how many times we really have to pass lubricants over there? I mean, in a normal case, not. Yes, I know in some cases the doctors give you those eye drops and all those things, but so swiftly do our eyes and eyelashes work. Such a perfect mechanism. Blood, I mean, the heart is such a wonderful pump. It has no motor fitted behind it, or there is no electric switch or anything, but still it pumps blood throughout our body. Such a wonderful creation this body is also. Similarly, another example I talked about is the seasons, So there are 4 seasons, and these seasons perfectly keep changing one after the other. They keep changing in a very cyclical manner. Not only the seasons, if you look at the fruits that come in these different seasons, they are conducive to that season. So like in summer, you automatically get those fruits which are very full of water, like watermelon, and those fruits which have a lot of watery stuff, you get automatically those kind of fruits. It's such a perfect arrangement that is being made. So these laws, how can there not be an intelligent brain behind creating these laws? So when we look at these laws, any intelligent or a logical person can conclude this statement that for a law, it implies a lawmaker. Do we agree to that? For every law or for a law, presence of law, there has to be a lawmaker. So this is a quote
Yes.
from one of the most famous scientists, Albert Einstein. He was a theist, by the way, okay? Just like Newton. Newton was an actual student of Bhagavad Gita. Albert Einstein, he had read Bhagavad Gita. He is one of his, I shouldn't say secretary, but one of the students who worked under him. He used to read Bhagavad Gita with him. Anyways, I believe in God who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of the universe. Okay. So there is a group of scientists who believe in God, but there is a group of scientists who also defy God. Okay. Okay, so we move on. Yeah. Now this is another logical argument. So there is a cause for everything. So anything in this world we see, there is a cause for it. You know, nothing has just appeared by itself. So for example, we see that if there is a child, then the child has his father, and the father has his father, and the father will have his father, and so on, so forth. You know, it just goes behind. You know this, right? Whenever you do any kind of puja, ya yajna mein baithte ho, that time the pujari will ask you, what is your gotra? Have you ever come across that situation? You have been asked your gotra. Do you know what this gotra is?
No.
But do you know at least your gotra?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So basically, when in this creation of this world, when Brahma started creating, he created 12 Prajapatis. Okay. Prajapatis are the ones who are entrusted to start progeny, to start creation of मतलब तुम अपनी एक वंशज बनाओ. So 12 Prajapatis were created. Okay. So Kashyapa, Pulatsya, Angira, you know, so they were like the 12 Prajapatis. So there are 12 of them. Now in their dynasty, so say for example, Kashyapa had his son, फिर वो बच्चे से 4 बच्चे आए, उन 4 बच्चों से और 4 आए, उन 16 बच्चों से और 4 आए, तो ऐसे करके वो ट्री बन गया. But when that tree, if it goes back all the way till Kashyapa, then my gotra is Kashyapa gotra. If it goes till, you know, Pulatsya, then my gotra is Pulatsya gotra, like that. So when I say gotra in the yajna, it actually points to the root of the tree, root in the sense before Brahma, rather after Brahma, that root, it gives the pointer over that. So that is gotra, you know. So we basically are telling that who am I, my father, unke father, blah 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 blah. अब मेरे को तो पता नहीं उनके बाद का ट्री क्या है, but because of the gotra that I know ultimate वहां पर कौन है. So I just tell that name. So that is the gotra that we refer over there. Okay. So for every cause there is a immediate cause. Okay. But when you start going back, it comes to a point where it's a full stop. It comes to a point where there is someone sitting over here for whom there is no cause. And that full stop or that person over there is whom we call as God, the cause of all causes. So in Brahma Samhita, there is a shloka which defines this. It says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So it is like Anadir. Anadir is he who does not have a beginning. Adir, but he who is the beginning of everything. Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. Okay. So we talked about 3 things. We talked about for every creation, there has to be a creator. For the laws to exist, there has to be a lawmaker. And for every cause, there has to be a supreme or ultimate cause, or for everything has a cause, right? So when we look at all these aspects, then definitely we can conclude that for all that we see around, for this wonderful creation that exists around us, which none of the humans have created, there has to be someone who has created that. There has to be someone who is governing that or controlling that. And there is someone who is maintaining that, right? And that person, whoever is doing that, we call him as God. Okay, we call him as God. So we can come to this point of conclusion or inference at this point in time. Now, the next immediate question, okay, the next immediate question that comes is, okay, fine. You say that there is someone called as God over there, who is either the creator, who is the maintainer, who is the governor, who is, the cause and everything. Why can't I see him? Why can't I see him? So there is a very famous quote actually. So can you see God? So there was one Russian astronaut, Yuri. He was the first man in the space on 12th April 1961. He quoted as saying that he did not see God when he was in space. So basically he went to the moon, okay, and from there usne telephone kiya udhar niche, scientists logo. I am standing at the highest point which ever a man has ever reached in his life. And when I stand over here and look all around me, I see there is no God, which says that means God does not exist. That was his conclusion. It is as simple as saying that when I went to New Delhi, I stood on the Red Fort of New Delhi and I looked all around me and I did not find Narendra Modi or the President of India anywhere, which concludes that India does not have a prime minister or a president. It's as simple as that. I mean, the expectation was when I go to the Red Fort, Narendra Modi or the President of India would be standing over there, waving hand to me saying, good, good, good. Thank you. You came over here. At least now people will know us, Okay. In contrast, John said to look out at this kind of creation out here and not believe in God is to me impossible. It just strengthens my faith. I wish there were words to describe what it's like. So these are two opposite statements. So this is like theistic one and this is the atheistic one. The atheist does not believe in God because he cannot see God, right? So we are so proud about our senses, right? We feel that our senses are so capable that through our senses, we can actually perceive God. So now the question is, do we really think with whatever we possess, we can see God? So the question is, do we have the right eyes to see God? So now my question to all of you is, what is the closest thing to you or to your eyes at this point in time?
Right now it's laptop screen.
Okay. Anyone else?
See nature of the universe.
Okay. Nature, laptop screen. Anyone else? Okay. For me, it's the eyelashes, which are the closest thing to my eyes, right? The immediate closest thing that is there for my eyes is my eyelashes or the eyelid. Can I see it? Can you see your eyelashes? Can you see your own face? Can you see there is a mole either on your nose or on your cheek or on your forehead? Can we see that? No, we cannot see it directly. Our eyes, no matter how beautiful they are, no matter how big they are incapable of seeing even the closest object. We know, right? Our senses, they have a range only, a particular distance closer and a particular distance farther we cannot see. Similarly, hearing wise, in a particular hertz range only we can hear. Like bats, they can hear a range more than us, in a higher frequency, but we cannot hear that. So there are limitations, right, to our senses. If I have to see my own face or my eyes, I need an external instrument, which I call it as a mirror. So even to see my own self, I need a help of another instrument, which I call as mirror. So then, even to see God, I need a mirror. But what is that mirror? So we will discuss about that mirror. So now, first, we will just try to understand our own, why I need a mirror. Okay. So the first one. Now, this is not a very offensive statement, but this is a factual statement, which we should take it very positively. We all are born with these 4 defects. What are these defects? One is we have imperfect senses. Imperfect senses in the sense, our senses have limitations, right? Our senses have limitations. Like, for example, we talked, our eyes, they have a range within or beyond which they cannot see. Same is with our ears, right? Our nose is not so very powerful. You know, dogs, they have a much stronger sense of smell than us, right? So our senses are imperfect. So one of the examples that I have is this. Now, if you look at this picture over here, in this picture, which 2 lines in this picture are parallel? The vertical ones, or the bottom one, or the top one? Which 2 lines are parallel?
All lines parallel.
Top 2.
Top 2, okay. What else?
I think all lines are parallel.
Yeah, you think, but you're not sure.
It's illusion.
Yeah. See, this is like, you know, a tricky illusory object. Yes, you're correct. All the lines are parallel over here, but it's just the way the squares are arranged, the black squares and the white. I mean, there are no white squares, but the black squares, the way they are arranged, it looks like, you know, either the lines are expanding or contracting, but actually they are all parallel. So the point we are trying to make over here is, our senses are imperfect. Like, for example, if you eat a very sweet thing, and after eating that sweet thing, if you try to eat a banana, the banana will have no taste at all. But if you eat something very spicy, and if you eat the same banana after that, that same banana will taste more sweeter compared to the previous one. So again, the sense is relative over there, right? It is not having the absolute taste or taste sensing ability. So like that, our senses are imperfect. Now, because our senses are imperfect, we have a tendency to be illusion. Not that we are always in illusion, but we can be in illusion. Okay. Like, for example, and this, I think most of us might have experienced this, in a very hot summer day, if you are driving on a road which is absolutely no traffic, long road, you know, many times we see, because of the heat, we see that there is a oil or water spilled on the road, right? We feel that there is oil or water spilled on the road. And sometimes we try to slow down, and then we realize that, oh, it was just like a mirage kind of stuff. Have you had this experience? I had this. I mean, I have had this. Or, okay, I'll tell you the other one. When you are sitting in a train, sometimes the train who is standing beside you moves, but you feel your train is moving. Have you had that experience?
Yes, sir. Relative motion.
Relative motion, right? So illusion. So be illusion. So because of our imperfect senses, we sometimes get illusioned. And sometimes because of illusion, we commit mistakes. we sometimes commit mistakes. Now, these mistakes might not be very gross mistakes, or sometimes they could be gross mistakes, right? Matlab, kabhi, you know, sometimes with me, it has happened even sitting in a car. You know, when I'm sitting in a car on a traffic signal and all of a sudden I feel the other car, which is parallel to me, it is, you know, either going forward or reverse. And I feel my car is going in reverse. And all of a sudden I try to, you know, brake my car, or I try to check, you know, if anything wrong in my car. And then I realize that main to hil hi nahi raha hu, actually, it's the other car that is moving.
So many a
because-
time,
yeah,
same thing we experience when we are in a train and we have other two trains on left side and right side, and it creates an illusion that whether we are moving or the other trains are moving, and it becomes very difficult to actually recognize which train is moving and which is not moving.
correct. And these illusions can cause us to create mistakes. And because we make mistakes, but we don't like people to know about our mistakes, we try to hide them. And that is the tendency we call as cheating tendency. Okay. So this is basically just an understanding of our 4 defects, which each of us have. The proportions might vary. Okay. But this in general, everyone has. Now, with these 4 defects existing, to know God, okay, to know God, I have different mirrors. One mirror is, I call it as Pratyaksha Praman. Pratyaksha Praman is basically direct sense perception. So experiencing, trying to experience God by my own senses. Okay. But because my senses are imperfect, okay, because my senses are imperfect, this Pratyaksha Praman might not always work. Sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not work. Okay. So then there is another way of knowing or learning, and that is called as Anuman Praman, or the path of inference. Okay. So this, you know, picture you see over here. Okay. This is, you know, 6 blind men. All these fellows are blind. Okay. By the way, it's not shown over here, but they all are blind. So all these 6 fellows, they are touching 6 different parts of the elephant, and they are concluding. So this fellow is touching the trunk and he says, oh, this is exactly like a snake. So he thinks this is a snake. This fellow, he's touching the tusk. This is some like weapon, some arrow or something. You know, he's touching the ears. He's thinking this more like a axe. This fellow, the tummy, he says it's like a wall. This fellow is touching the leg and he says it's like a trunk, you know, tree trunk. And he's touching the tail and he thinks it's a rope. Now, in isolation, all 6 of them in one sense are correct in isolation. But the 6 correct, in spite of all 6 being correct in isolation, a combined 6 does not give the right picture. So Anuman Praman is like this. Anuman Praman is more of just drawing out some inference without being conclusive about it, based on my perception about things. Like, for example, in Reader's Digest, there was one story that had come a few years back. It was a story about a man who had 3 children, and small children, and he was traveling with these children, you know, through a metro. So he was waiting for the metro to arrive. So he was sitting on a bench and the children were playing around, and there were many other people who were also sitting on that bench. And, you know, few elderly people, they were trying to read newspapers. Some of them were trying to read books, some trying to hear music, some were talking with each other. And these children, they were just playing around and dancing and jumping this and that and creating a big chaos and all those things. So few elderly people became very irritated with this whole thing. And they went to this man and they said that, you know, and this man was quiet. Okay, by the way, he was not trying to even stop or control the kids. So he went to this man and he said, Boss, I mean, you got to have some manners for these kids, why don't you control them? I mean, they're creating such a big nuisance over here. There's such a big disturbance. We just want to peacefully sit over here and read or hear or listen to the music and all those things. Can you not control the children? The man said to this man that, yeah, I understand your problem and I'm extremely sorry for that, but what can I do? I just came from the funeral after burying their mother, and I don't know what to say to these children. Now, when this man heard this, okay, who was complaining, his perception of looking at the children changed completely. His anger got converted into sympathy for the children. Okay. So perceptions can draw incorrect conclusions. Anuman Praman is based on perceptions. Anuman Praman is based on perceptions. So this is another mirror of trying to look at God, but still it might not give the right picture. The last way, and which is an authorized way, which is explained in the scriptures, this is especially the way for experiencing those things in life which you cannot test. This is called as Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman is basically hearing from authority. Okay, this is very important thing. Hearing from authority. When we hear from authority, then that gives you the perfect understanding or perfect knowledge. Like, for example, if a small child, he comes and he looks at a very complex machine like an air conditioner or a water cooler, and he comes to his father and he says that, Dad, what is this thing which is giving such nice, soothing, cool air? And so the child can try to, find on his own. He can try to open the machine and he can see that, oh, there is a water dripping, and then there are some kind of filter layers and some ghas usme latki hui hai, and some kind of compressor boxes there, and still he might not get to a conclusion. But the right way is he just goes to his father and he asks, Dad, what is this? And the father says, Beta, this is a water cooler, or Beta, this is an air conditioner. An authorized source who understands that, and he can tell about it. Similarly, to know about God, we need to approach the authority who can give understanding of God. Just like we always say, if I want to, or if I go on the street and if I stop a person and I say that, boss, you know what, my bike is not working properly, seems there is some problem in the engine or something. Can you fix it? Or can you tell me what the problem is? The person will say, Are Baba, mere paas kyun aaya hai? You go to a car mechanic or a bike mechanic, right? You go to a mechanic because he can tell you exactly that. Or you go to the man and you say that, boss, I'm having a terrible stomach ache, and I don't know exactly what this problem is because I have tried to take so many different medicines. It's not working. Can you please tell me? You say, go to a doctor. Why are you asking me? I'm not a doctor, right? So similarly, whenever we want a proper authorized answer, we have to go to the authority of that subject matter. So the authority to know God is in the scriptures, the Shastra, what we call as. And the sages or the sadhus are the students of Shastra. Just like a mechanic is a student of the mechanics, a doctor is a student of medicine. Similarly, the sadhus or gurus, they are the students of Shastra, and they can help us see God through the eyes of Shastra. So scriptures is that mirror which helps us to see God. If you have to see God, then we have to see God through the eyes of scripture. We cannot see God through our material eyes, which are not even capable of seeing themselves without a other instrument. Similarly, if we have to see God, then we have to see God through the eyes of scripture, or scripture is that mirror which will help us see God. And why we need that? Because with practical, any practicals or any kind of experiments, you cannot see God. Just like, for example, if I go to a person or if I go to buy a poison bottle, okay, मेरे को खटमल को मारना है, मेरे को cockroaches को मारना है, I go to the person and I tell him that, boss, I need poison का bottle चाहिए इनको मारने के लिए. The person gives me the bottle and says, okay, 100 rupees. And I say, चलता है ना? He says, of course, chalta hai. Now, I am not going to test it over there, right? I am not going to tell that person, oh, let me test it, whether it works or not. The person will say, pay first and then test it, don't test it before that. So there are certain things which we just accept it first, okay? And when you accept it first and you start applying it, and when you apply it, then you come to know whether that poison works or not. And depending whether it works or how effectively it works, your faith or trust in that particular brand increases more. Okay. Similarly, when we know that, okay, scripture is the mirror through which I see God, now I should start using that mirror to understand God and myself, which we will be discussing in the further classes, and see that with this minimum faith, if I approach, God, is it making a positive difference? And that positive difference will only strengthen my faith. So does God exist? Yes, he does. If you go with a logical understanding, just like we understood that for every creator there has, for every creation there has to be a creator, for every lawmaker there, for every law there has to be a lawmaker, for every effect there has to be a cause. Okay, so we understood that. But how can I see this God, who exists? So the way to see God is through the eyes of the scriptures. And to understand the scriptures, I need to approach the student who has studied or who is studying the scriptures to understand the scriptures. And that way I can actually apply the scriptures in my life to know or see God. Okay. Now, there is also a other aspect to this discussion, which I don't think so we can cover it today, but we can do it in some other session. Is we discussed about, does God exist and how can I see God? But what we did not discuss is, who is God? Okay. So who is that God that we are referring over here? Because we know that in India, there are so many gods. So unme se kaun hai and kyun wo hai, So that part we have not yet covered, but that we will cover in some other discussions. Now, there is also another aspect about the scriptures. What are the scriptures? Who wrote the scriptures? How did we receive the scriptures? What are the different scriptures? Okay. Why do you think that the scriptures are infallible? Why they are not imperfect? So there is also a separate session for that, which kind of stamps the authority of the scriptures as to why they are perfect. So that also we will have a separate detailed discussion about it. So for scriptures and for God, we still need another discussions because we cannot cover that in a very short amount of time. Okay. So with that, I just stop this discussion for today with, opening the forum for all of you. If you have any queries on whatever we discussed today. Hare Krishna. Any query, any questions on whatever we discussed today? In ISKCON, in past, when we used to do this course, we used to do a 2-hour session actually. And in that, in one session itself, we used to cover all these topics like, who is God and the scriptures and all those things. But on purpose, I did not want to do a 2-hour session because I know our attention span is very limited. It becomes very difficult to give attention after like 40-45 minutes. So that's why I thought it's better we do it in phases actually, because that way at least we can give the necessary attention to that.
So Prabhuji, not a question, but I think everyone who has joined today, I mean, this session believes the existence of God. And my understanding is what you have explained. I mean, the law of natures, how this universe has been formed. So these, examples are the ones that we considered, to believe that there is a supernatural power which is beyond our, I think, imagination, which runs these universe. So that is my perception of God.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I know, I mean, most of us who are on this session, we all accept the existence of God, but still it is very important to get into the nitty-gritties, because sometimes we accept God only out of fear of God. Sometimes people dar ke mare, or sometimes people have their own understanding of what God is, or sometimes they feel that if I don't accept God, then probably mere जीवन में कुछ गड़बड़ हो जाएगा. Or sometimes some people themselves are not very clear whether God है या नहीं है. It's a very, very confusion thing, because we are so accustomed to the different rituals that are traditionally happening in our culture and in our society, that our faith is a very 50-50 kind of thing. Like, for example, I'll give you a very simple example. Most of us might have seen, or most of us even have done this Satyanarayan Katha at your homes. You have done it? How many of you have actually experienced or actually done Satyanarayan Katha at your home? Satyanarayan ki puja.
Yes, we have done.
Most of us, right? Most of us have done this Satyanarayan puja at our home. Now, when we do this Satyanarayan puja, one of the things that the pujari does is he reads out that Satyanarayan Katha, right? Agree? या बैठे ही नहीं हम लोग कभी वो पूजा पूरी पूजा.
Yes.
राइट. सो ओके, तो सत्यनारायण की पूजा में अगर कभी बैठे नहीं हो तो कभी बैठना और देखना क्या होता है. ओके, सो आई विल टेल यू द रीजन आई एम ट्राइंग टू ब्रिंग आउट दिस एग्जांपल इज this is how ignorant we are about this whole process. Okay, but still we think that we are doing something which is God related. So in this Satyanarayan puja, one of the key aspects of this Satyanarayan puja is reading the Satyanarayan Katha. And the Brahmin or the pujari, whoever performs that puja, depending on how much dakshina you are paying him, he will read the Satyanarayan Katha for you for 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, or 8 hours, depending on how much you pay him. And in that Satyanarayan Katha, whatever he reads, if you read, the Katha that he reads to you is a Katha about a particular person, about a particular girl, about a particular couple who was not having a child, and then they performed a Satyanarayan puja, and then they read Satyanarayan Katha. And when they did that Satyanarayan Katha, then they had a daughter, and फिर उसका शादी होने वाला था, फिर उसका शादी हो गया, but then for some reason she did not eat the Satyanarayan ka prasad and all those things. And again, they had calamities in their lives and all those things. And again, they performed the Satyanarayan puja and they read the Satyanarayan Katha. And when they read the Satyanarayan Katha, then automatically everything became very nice and normal and all those things. So this is what the pujari will read for us. This is the story that they read. And they call this as the Satyanarayan Katha. But if you look at it, whatever he has read is not a Satyanarayan Katha. It is the importance of Satyanarayan Katha. The actual Satyanarayan Katha तो उसने पढ़ा ही नहीं, because ये तो Satyanarayan Katha क्यों पढ़ना चाहिए उसके ऊपर, this is what that whole story is about. But what is the actual Satyanarayan Katha? One time, one of our gurus, he had asked one Brahmin, in Banaras, and he said, भैया मेरे को एक बताओ, ये सत्यनारायण कथा है क्या एक्चुअली? बोले साहब मेरे को भी नहीं पता ये सत्यनारायण कथा क्या है. देखना हम लोग तो क्या है, हमको अलग अलग कस्टमर्स के घर जाना होता है, पढ़ना होता है, हम लोग फटाफट निपट लेते हैं, बट हमको भी नहीं पता है सत्यनारायण कथा क्या है. Okay, and then that guru, he asked one of the devotees, and the devotee told him that Satyanarayan Katha is nothing but the Katha of Narayan. And Katha of Narayan is none other than Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam talks about the 10 Dasha avatars of Narayan, and reading Srimad Bhagavatam or reading those stories of Narayan is actual Satyanarayan Katha. So these are very small things, right? But we don't know these things. We do things, so many things we just do out of rituals. And when we do things out of rituals, they do not bear the fruit that it is intended to bear. And then when it does not bear the intended fruit, then we start doubting on the process itself, thinking, yaar, kya ye log bolte hai badi badi baatein, lekin hota kuch nahi hai. The fact of the matter is, maine kiya hi galat hai. But I am in the illusion that whatever I did was right, and now I'm not getting the right result. So I'm just putting this one example in front of you. There are so many such things actually, which we can keep discussing over a period of time, while we go through the session. But the whole idea of going through these sessions and reading the scriptures is to help us understand the real knowledge about God and God related processes. That is what will enlighten us. Okay. Okay. Anyone else has any other query, question, concern, doubt? Okay. If you get a doubt even after words later, while taking dinner, while watching television, whenever, then please put your doubts on WhatsApp. Okay. Or you can send your doubts to Navneet, and he can actually send it to me, or we can openly discuss over here. I mean, whatever, but please, I mean, if you have any doubts, don't just keep them with you, because doubts will destroy faith. It is very necessary to clear the doubts, because when doubts are cleared, it instills faith. Okay, so doubts should always be cleared at any cost. Okay, we stop over here. I thank you so much for your precious time. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Guruji.